What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Hana podcast. It's a Willie Paul sitting down with Cameron Cortez.
What's up, Willie? What's up,
Cam the
everybody?
man. How you doing, man? What's up?
Doing good. I'm doing great. My LA Rams beat the Buccaneers, and I am so stoked to watch them take on the 49ers this weekend. So I'm super happy.
Nice. That'll be really intense. That's a high stakes game, huh?
Yeah, it is. And it's off to the Super Bowl after that. So we'll see.
You think they can take it?
I I mean, I'm a fan now. I gotta say they are. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if we've talked about this on the podcast, but Cam has had a long history of what would you call it? Like loyalty to different teams, like choosing the team.
Well, for a long time, I'd never had an NFL team. Brandon told me, you got to stop being an NFL Ronin. You got to pick. So prior to me getting married, we had this whole discussion, went through all the teams. Initially picked the Minnesota Vikings, but I was just like, why? I don't know. And just through time and whatnot, especially this season, just went with the Rams. One of the guys in my small group was cheering for them. He switched teams too recently. So we've both been cheering for them together and just having camaraderie through that. But it's been a great ride. Loving it so far. Looking
But
at
not a
getting a
bandwagon. Not a
no,
bandwagon.
totally not a bandwagon. Looking at getting an Aaron Donald jersey. That's probably what's up next. So
So
stay
committed for the
tuned.
long
Oh,
haul.
totally committed.
Well, we do have quite a wait until that game, and it is can be pretty tense. And oh, what a smooth transition into today's topic.
Very smooth.
We've been talking about waiting, or rather, Pastor Brandon talked about waiting this past weekend message, which can often be one of those things that's like, it's not that big a deal. And then when you're in it, you're like, ripping hairs out because you're just frustrated. You're sick of waiting. Your patience is running thin. So, Cam, what's something that you're waiting on right now,
Something I am waiting on.
other than the Rams versus Niners?
Other than the Rams versus Niners, and I guess to just echo with how everyone's been feeling, just waiting to see how all of this pandemic stuff's gonna shape out. I mean, we're what approaching year two of this and ups and downs of various things, how it's been going, how it's been looking, even within my own life and ministry, just seeing how it affects it and even all the way down to my day-to-day activities and amongst friends and family is just waiting for whatever that's going to chop up to be. I'm past whatever the new normal is. I'm past whatever post-pandemic reality is. Can I just get some bearing of how things are going to look? And I think that's what I'm waiting for, in all honesty, because it's hard to plan. It's hard to
Yeah,
kind of look forward to certain things because it feels like it's gonna change and go on its head. So that's definitely something I'm looking at waiting. I feel like I'm waiting on.
yeah, it's tough because like you want to plan for upcoming stuff. Like you were talking about like classes at Metro. You want to do like a how to read the Bible thing, which you were telling me
Hmm.
about, which sounded super sick. I was like, dang, I would take this class actually. Um, and like it's hard to plan that stuff just because like
Yeah.
everything's gonna change. It feels like everything changes every like 45 minutes.
Yeah, or it's as simple as, oh, I want to go out to eat with a couple of friends, and then, you get the notice of, oh, someone tested positive for COVID and they're quarantined, or oh, this restaurant's hours are changed because of such and such, or they only allow so many people, or something as simple as I'm trying to, as I mentioned before, run the marathon, and I have a few benchmarks I'm trying to hit before I get there, and one of them is running the Great Aloha Run. And one thing I was noticing was, oh, it's a virtual one. So I just
Hmm.
have to run 8 miles on my own sometime during this allotted time frame. But because things keep changing, I'm trying to like set the date of when I do the 8 miles. And there's just so many different things kind of coming up during those times that I'm just like, when am I gonna be able to do this?
Yeah, it's definitely difficult and like with respect to everybody doing their best and
Yeah.
everybody trying to do what's right for them and all of that. It is tough sometimes, it's
Mhm.
just the nature of right now.
Yeah. How about you? What are you waiting on?
Nothing. I got nothing really big I'm waiting on. Like no. So we are almost like 2 weeks out now, which is crazy from the new addition to the baby, to the due date. So we're kind of in like a, I've been calling it the danger zone, where things can pop off at any moment. Um,
You're on the highway to it.
yeah, I'm definitely on the highway going 55. A safe, responsible, going the speed limit. No, but like we've got our suitcase packed and everything, and like the car seat base is in the car, so it just snaps in and everything, and it's just kind of like a waiting in the beginning was like really easy because it was like, oh, this is really nice. But now that it's like at the end, it's like, all right, let's just get it over with. Like, let's just do it. So
Let's
we're
go.
just, yeah, we're just like, waiting's been super tough just because like it feels like when you get closer to something, it's like harder to wait. But yeah, just trying to enjoy all of the pre-child things that I can while I still
Yeah.
can, like getting sleep and all
Mhm.
that.
Alone time, little things that you can do on your own. Yeah.
Yeah, just like like let's cook an elaborate dinner, like because we're not gonna be able to in a while.
Hmm. Or get as many surf session as possible.
Yeah, which even then it's like been flat lately, so it's like,
Mhm. Waiting
dang
for
man.
waves.
Yeah, waiting for the south side to pick up a little bit because I don't want to drive out to double overhead Waimea and yeah.
Yeah, let's make sure you're alive and well for your child's arrival. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely want to make sure I'm on top of the game for that. But
Hmm.
man, it was we were saying earlier, waiting is like one of those things that's a lot easier said than done.
Yeah.
Of especially in this season of like I know people who are just like frustrated, like when are things gonna open back up? When are things gonna close back down? Like people are just like, when are things gonna change? But for the past, I think we're going to the third year of this because 2020 to 2021 is year one.
Hmm.
2020 2022 is year two.
Mm.
So in March, it'll be year three,
Oh, I guess yeah, you're right. Or yeah.
which is crazy.
Hmm.
um, yeah, and it just feels like there's a lot of like hurry up and wait lately.
Hmm.
Um, so Pastor Brandon was talking about making the most of the season that we're in. Um, so as Cameron, as you look through scripture, through history, all of that, uh, do you see any examples of people who were waiting, who used the season of waiting wisely?
Yeah, there's so many examples, especially through the Old Testament. You think of Abraham and Sarah, they were waiting for a child. You think of the Israelites who were waiting in the wilderness. You think of even the disciples were told to wait, right, when Jesus ascended to before his Holy Spirit came upon them. So there's just all these examples of what the people of God were to do in seasons of waiting. And you have good and bad examples. There's times where they did well and they were obedient and they followed what God laid out for them. And then in this weekend's example, Pastor Brandon laid out that there were times where they didn't. They sought their own solution, or they went after, chased after their own saviors to get them out of their season of waiting. And I think sometimes we do the same. We want that quick fix. We want something that will kind of abate that feeling, that anxiety of waiting. And oftentimes it is settling for something less than, or literally full on disobeying God with what he's promised and what he said he's going to do. And I think that's those times when we make short the season of waiting because we settle for something less.
Mm, yeah. Pastor Brennan talked about the Israelites at the base of Mount Sinai with the golden calf and everything, and they were done with waiting. Um, Now, as Pastor Brennan talked about, we don't have golden calves, a lot of us, but we do turn to things, as you just talked about, like the quick fixes.
Mhm.
was one of the big things that Pastor Brandon talked about. Cam, how do you know when you to differentiate between like a quick fix versus like a window of opportunity that God is opening up for you?
Yeah, that's a real challenge, I think, sometimes, mainly because the quick fix can seem like the solution, or it does look really appealing in a lot of ways. And there's something to be said about when you see something and it seems too good to be true, or you're trying to get something by other means, and you know it's by worldly means, but it doesn't seem to have the sort of blessing of God upon it. And to everyone else's eyes, it seems like that's a great idea. Like, go ahead, go forward with it. But there's a check within my own like heart, and it's definitely, I know, from the Holy Spirit oftentimes, of a conviction saying that's not what God wants you to do, or that's not the way that He's laid out, or a characteristic of who Jesus is calling you to be.
Mm,
And if there's that sort of heart check that kind of clicks on, again, process it before the Lord in prayer, but also in like biblical community with trusted people, because they're the ones who want God's best for you. And oftentimes they'll see those blind spots where I just want this, I want to go forward on it. And they might be honest in saying, Cam, maybe there's something that you gotta seek the Lord on more on this, or that's not originally what you said when you kind of set out on this waiting season. I think that's sometimes the easy thing, right? You want to back out of what you originally said you were going to do, or what you said the Lord said was going to do, and you just quickly shortchange it for a golden calf like thing, or an idol in a way.
yeah, like having those people to help you read the fine print in
Mhm.
case you miss anything. So,
Yeah.
man, Cam, is there any sort of thing like that here at Metro?
Let me think. I think it's called a Connect Group.
I think you're right. And you know what? I think you can head over to our website and there's a Connect Group Finder where we have great communities that just want to support you and believe God's best for you and like help you work through these things. So you can head over to our website, metrochristianchurch.com, and find a group that works for you, whether that be the people, the time, the location, everything. And so you can have those people where when you are in a season of waiting, or if you're like torn between, is this a golden calf moment? Is this like God opening a short window for me to like move? You can have those people to go over with and comb through the decisions with a fine tooth comb.
Yeah, because it's hard discerning what I guess some pastors will say, a good decision versus a God decision. It's that fine line between it sounds good on paper, it looks like it's a feasible thing, but maybe there's a cost you didn't count, maybe there's a thing that you didn't realize that you would have to pay for later on. And what God is always looking at is the long term. God is in the business of not necessarily like long-term investment, but he's the one who he's seeing down the road, even generations, and the ramifications that come out of this decision that you might be making are far away in what you're seeing now in the present. And it's not necessarily something that you notice oftentimes, and you kind of need that perspective from other people as well as from what the Lord is gonna give you in those times.
Yeah, because as you were saying, the long game, Pastor Brandon talked about the harvest principle,
Mhm.
which is you reap what you sow, which is in comes from the Bible, you know.
Mhm.
And so the things that we do in these seasons of waiting or in these seasons of like some would say uncertainty has huge ramifications down the line because we
Mhm.
could sow good things and get good things down. I've been really trying to work on my garden and like I've got this cucumber plant that's doing really well.
Mm.
And so like if I pay attention to it and like sow the right nutrients, I know that that's not the right use of the word so. Excuse my janky metaphor for a second, but like I know that if I take care of it, then it's gonna make cucumbers as a
Mhm.
cucumber plant. But if I don't, then like I may be able to put that time, that like 5 minutes of watering it and checking it and everything into other things, but like the yield is not going to be good from that. And so there are like these small actions that we can be doing um, throughout our days, throughout our weeks, that will have huge payoffs down the road, which is tough for us to think about on a long-term scale.
Yeah. I think especially too because we're so far removed from the agricultural society that the Bible is rooted in.
Yeah.
And oftentimes we miss this principle because the harvest idea is so foreign to us. Like not many of us sow seeds, not many of us wait through seasons and various droughts or rainy times for their crops to grow, and it's not their main, sustenance. But you can still see this principle in so many other things. Like I think about like investing in a retirement or those types of, principles where you are doing something now for something down the road. I think the most applicable one for me oftentimes is like working out, because you're not going to necessarily see the gains or the weight loss in even the first month. Sometimes you could go to the gym almost every day and do the right diet and all that, but you might not see the significant results that you're hoping for in even that long of a time. You might have to wait 2, maybe 3 months before you start seeing those results, and they're compounding results, right? That every single day that you go in, you just improve that much more. And then you keep kind of doing that, is sowing that investment of time into your body in a way. You will see the dividends pay off tremendously later on. And I think that's the seasons of waiting that we find ourselves in, that we're trying to find those investment things to put in so that it bears a fruit when we are out of it.
Yeah, and I feel like for the most part, a lot of people understand the whole like, all right, if I go to the gym, I'm doing the strong lifts, all that, following the program, but I'm not going to see results but it's like the process of slogging through it. And like when I get to that, but a lot of times we have a hard time equating that spiritually, where it's like, no, you still got to follow the air quotes program. But you might not see the results immediately. Like, but there will be a day down the road where something happens and instead of reacting with anger or like sarcasm or whatever, you react with peace and grace. And you're just like, whoa, like, that's really cool. Like that is a result of the work that I put in. That's the result of waking up 5 minutes earlier to read my Bible before I head out to work, or downloading Bible in one ear instead of listening to podcasts or the radio or whatever on the drive to wherever I'm going. I listen to scriptures and like all these little lessons and everything. And like that will be that same process of like, I'm putting in the work now so that I can be better, be the person that I want to be in the future.
Yeah, and that's why I love the spiritual disciplines, or as Brian, the author of The Good and Beautiful God, said, soul training exercises. These things are practices that Jesus did, and also the disciples and many of the characters in the Bible did, in order to not only grow and be connected with God, but it also, in a way, trained them. It gave them the equipment and the regimen in order to live like Jesus did, and to sustain through very tough seasons and times in their life, oftentimes while they were waiting. You see oftentimes Moses or whatnot, they practice either silence or solitude. And then we see even Jesus practicing prayer and fasting and those things in those seasons of waiting or preparation in before they stepped out into ministry, or before they stepped out into whatever grand role that God had for them. There was that sort of conditioning season in a way that brought them up to that point. And the same applies to our lives, that we train well during these times as far as our sanctification is concerned, as far as our spiritual growth, in order so that when the time of testing does come, and when the chips are on the table and something's on the line, that we don't falter. I think of a quote my one friend told me about going to the gym, and I love it because it's something that it's reminded to me every day. When you work out so that you are formidable in an emergency. And I chuckle and laugh at it, but you think about it, right? Some of those guys in the gym, some of them, not my, I'm not, attacking anybody, but like they're just there to get a big body or just to look nice physique wise. But when it comes down to the wire, like in a situation where it needs to be handled, that you want to be physically fit enough so that, hey, I'm not helpless in this situation, or I'm not a hindrance in this time. And I think similarly, our spiritual growth will do the same, because we will hit those really tough times. And if we haven't put in the investment and work to kind of build to that, we could be a hindrance. We could be a block to what God is doing.
Mm.
As I sometimes say, we could be the difference between someone coming to know Jesus or not because of our training prior.
So I like that. That's kind of like a cool like paradigm shift on like seasons of waiting as
Hmm.
opposed to like, hey, it's just sit around and wait. It's no, this is a time of like conditioning and like
Hmm.
uh I was never I never played sports, so I don't know what a conditioning season is. I did marching band. We had something similar, but we just ran a lot.
Hmm.
Because I'm very cool. Anyway, but yeah, it's like, hey, this is a time for you to stop putting off all the things that you kind of have a sense of like, oh, I should be doing this. Like God is putting this on my heart to get better at XYZ. And it could be that it's a season of conditioning that in the future, when something comes up, you'll be like, yeah, I know how to handle this. Like I'm ready. I have the skills, the fortitude, the like solidity of foundation of who God is that I can handle the situations that are coming up in my life.
Hmm. Pastor Brandon talked about being a part of the Farrington football team. He was on the sidelines with a lot of players. I relate with that story a lot because I played football in high school, and I was one of those third, fourth stringers who, never really got to play my freshman year and was just kind of sitting on the sideline and not really knowing, what was out there for me. Well, lo and behold, one game against Waipahu, I get my chance to go in because we're up like maybe 3 touchdowns at this point. So coach is just throwing everybody in. There's like 2 minutes left in the game. And here's me in my first, high school football game ever. And I'm super green. I never played football in my life. I literally joined that summer and kind of got into the conditioning of things and whatnot. So here I'm in my first game ever. 4 plays in, I'm up against this really big dude, and he goes in for a block on me and totally pounds me, and I get injured.
Oof.
I sprain my MCL. I'm out for the rest of the season. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I was not prepared for this in any shape or form of it. And the cool thing was, through the help of like many coaches and just being encouraged through it, I came back so much stronger the next season that I actually got accused of using steroids from one of my teammates, because I
Yeah.
went from just literally only being able to bench the bar to like 225 pounds and like that. So it was knowing that season of waiting for me through that summer and through the conditioning and through the training that actually helped me to play the next season and be a starter.
No, no juice.
No
Just
juice, no
mom's
juice.
cooking.
Mom's cooking, literally. And my mom will say I practically ate her out of house and home. So,
Shout out to moms.
yeah.
All right. So it's easy if we're like, all right, we want to run the marathon. Google search marathon training circuit, marathon training program. But it's a lot harder when you're like how to be less anxious or like how to be more kind, more generous. You get a lot of wildly varying results. So, Cam, what are some of the practices, some of the conditioning, if you will, some of the workouts, as it were, that we can be doing to condition our spirits, our souls?
Yeah. There's so many, and it's almost like there's a workout for every single one, or spiritual discipline for each one. But the one I want to encourage us continually, as we are still in it, we're in our last week of our 21 days of prayer and fasting as part of the Foursquare denomination. And for each of us who have been a part of it or still are yet not yet, I'd want to encourage you to jump in with it. And again, like how Pastor Brandon was talking about on the onset of it, it's not so much about what you're giving up, it's what you're doing instead. And it should be replacing the time of whatever you're fasting with prayer. Whatever is going to draw you closer to God, whatever is going to bring you into his presence and to hear from him best. I think that's one of the practices and disciplines that we just need overall on every single day, that it builds into you that schedule and regimen of, before I start my day, before I go towards something I'm desiring, whether it's demands on my own time or what my flesh wants, that I'm going to first seek the Lord. I'm going to first put it before him in prayer. And what fasting does is, and because it's partnered with prayer, it removes those distractions. It removes the things that kind of hinder you in a lot of ways, and it helps you to laser and put your focus in on God. So if you haven't jumped in with the 21 days, please jump on our website. We have resources for you. There's a full PDF download for the various devotions that are going through, and listen back to a few sermons and even the podcast that Willie and I did regarding fasting. We have so many great things about it and so many awesome stories going through it. And again, if you have any questions, please email me, Cameron@metrochristianchurch.com.
Yeah, it's been good. We're what is this, day 16?
16, yeah.
Day 16. How's it been for you?
Honestly, it's been kind of tough. There's been times where I've been so tempted to quit. I want to just say, you know what? I want to watch that YouTube highlight reel of the Rams versus the Buccaneers. Or
after like immediately after the game ends, you're
yeah,
like highlights.
yeah, it's seriously, that was such a challenge. And then the other one, I just been having bonkers food cravings for just all sorts of unhealthy foods, like fried chicken and roast pork and all those things. And yeah, there's been a couple of times I was with friends or whatnot, and they're full on eating a chicken katsu plate or a pizza in front of me, and I'm just like, okay, pray, Lord help me. But it's been really good. It's helped me to really focus in on this season, especially as we look towards 10th anniversary, as we look towards how we grow spiritually as a church. I've been very thankful for this time and the 21 days that are laid out. So encourage each of you to do that as well.
Yeah, super good stuff. Hey, for anyone listening, if you have any other questions, like I know that we just talked a lot about, or not a lot, but a little bit about fasting. But Cameron is really knowledgeable about a lot of things. Like if you're interested in like how to read the Bible better, or like what these prayers should look like while you're fasting, or if you're giving up like social media, or like being on screens before a certain time, and you're like, how do I fill that time? Cameron's available, so you can just shoot him an email. His email, as he said, is Cameron@metrochristianchurch.com. And I know I'm speaking for him, but I'm confident in saying that I know that he'd love to help you out.
I totally would. It's my joy. I love doing this. Again, like I mentioned, this is my dream job, and I am stoked to be a part of it.
Yeah, so he's available. Just shoot him an email, and he'll do his best to answer any questions, give you resources. He'll probably like say, here's 5 books for you to read.
And not that intense.
Yeah, not that intense. That's a joke. You did buy me a pretty intense book for Christmas, though. And I got you something not intense. But yeah, so he's available. Great resource. If you have any questions about any of the spiritual disciplines, or like any advice or anything on anything growing in this season of conditioning. And great coach for bench pressing. He almost got me to 225 bench, but then, this was like early 2020. I was like 2 weeks away from hitting the 225, and then everything shut down, and it was like, no.
We'll get
Cam got
again.
me there. Cam got me there. One of these days, Cameron.
We will.
But hey, thanks you for joining us, Cam. Thanks for making some time out of your day.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, everybody, head over to our website, register for any upcoming events, find a connect group, register for service, find info about the 21 days of prayer and fasting. Everything you need is there. So head over to there, metrochristianchurch.com. We'll see you next week on the Hana podcast. All right, everybody.
Take care, everybody.
Chakos.